Okay, hello everyone, welcome back. I have a very curious mind, and when I see others' lives improve, I'm often intrigued and I start asking questions quickly. Several months ago, I came across this couple in the spiritual community and I was immediately drawn to them, and I find their work so fascinating. So today I am thrilled to share these beautiful souls with you. So welcome, Elena Bensonoff and Alejandro Ferradas. Did I say that right?
Yes, perfectly well.
You
Thank you.
say you say it with your cool accent because I've been practicing, but I don't think I do it very good justice. So you say it.
Alejandro Ferradas.
See, there's no way. Okay, very cool. All right, so welcome to the two of you. I have been working with you. I've learned from you a lot over the last few months. I joined their community and I can't get enough of the two of you. I love it. So today we're going to have an open and authentic convo about some really interesting things. So first off, I want you to just start from the baseline, and I'm sure you guys say this 5,000 times and you're probably sick of it, but will you please tell everybody that have never heard your names or know nothing about you what it is, give them a general understanding of your work.
Oh, so it's a big question.
Yeah.
Together, what we do together. So my background is in traditional and functional medicine, and then I've transitioned from the world of pharmacy to functional medicine, and then into the world of energy and frequency medicine. Just like you, both of us are curious and have been curious. So curiosity has led us into the world of quantum physics and exploration of what makes up our reality. We wanted to understand the depth of everything that is part of who we are. So it initially started off as a project birthed out of curiosity when we were testing, for example, people that had different chronic medical conditions. And I will give you an example. One would be Epstein-Barr virus that was showing up often in people's field. And so this is when I began to do quantum analysis of a person's field, looking at different chronic things that were going on, but also color, light frequencies, and many, many other different things that were happening. And what we discovered, even though, let's say, they were receiving treatments from their doctors or healthcare providers, or even herbal remedies to treat Epstein-Barr, we recognized it would come back. A year later, it would come back and it would resurface again and again. So I said, I wonder if it's imprinted in the human energy field, which is our biofield. It's another term for it would be the divine field. I wonder if it's imprinted as something else, because everything has frequency and omits frequency. So what we discovered is in many cases, the viruses are imprinted in the human energy field with different emotions based on different patterns of events and situations that occurred in that person's life. So we began to dig really deep of what occurred. And it brought us to, for example, in some instances, to an event that occurred when a child was 2 years old, or when that person was 2 years old. And it created a very specific imprint in the field. So therefore the virus wouldn't leave the body, right? It was almost like it created an imprint. And yes, you could take it out from a physical body, but the imprint of it would stay in the quantum field. So then we thought, this was a big aha moment. Since it's imprinted using frequencies, but emotions, events, and situations that were impacting it, what is it that really makes up our reality? And what was fascinating is we recognized that this biofield is actually a record keeper, which is the past, present, and future is all happening in the now. And time is a construct, a human construct, because ultimately everything is happening in the now. So when that file from the past, what we call the past, is removed, then you literally change the outcome of moving forward. So you change what's happening right now in the person's field. Therefore, the field can realign itself with the physical body, and the body can begin to heal itself.
With its own divine intelligence.
That's right. So then we began to test people, places. We wanted to understand, why is it that we were feeling discrepancies between the information that was brought to our field of perception, whether it was through social media or news outlets, and how we were feeling, because ultimately we recognize that every human being is the frequency fork. So we actually feel and tune in and know, but we're so much bombardment is happening from all these outlets that it creates noise and disconnects us from our true essence of being able to tune in to the truth, right? Or the ultimate knowing. So by reading thousands of people and places, we recognized there's something to it. So it led us to vibrational revelations. And
So
the
you've
work that we
read
do,
thousands of people. How long have you been doing this?
probably for 3 years now.
Okay.
This work for 3
And
years.
you started with kind of a baseline with David Hawkins' work, right? And then you've made you've refined it, or maybe fine-tuned it and done your own version of, I mean, I know it's not the same. I know, because you don't use muscle testing. He uses muscle testing, or used muscle testing. What is it that you use for your readings?
Yes, he used kinesiology, right? Muscle testing. And we use a scalar wave technology. And but of course, we're very appreciative of his work, because he laid a very beautiful and solid foundation, for us to build from. And we were able to expand on what was built by him. I will say he made it all about one number as of the overall frequency for an individual. And as we are rereading, we'll say, because we read his book a few times, we found few discrepancies that actually triggered our curiosity, right? To get it really, get a clear picture of it, and be able to share it with people with certainty and a very strong conviction that its accuracy is really to the highest level possible. So that's when we decided, okay, the description is beautiful, but very generic. And obviously, as we started paying attention to people's behaviors, we thought, well, there are so many common factors here within each frequency, but there's a lot more than just one number. So we started breaking it down in different categories. As we do, we read not only the overall frequency, but also different aspects, such as relationships, finances, health, intuition, philanthropy, and what's the other one? I miss finances,
Personal
yes.
growth.
And then we go
Anyway,
with
many
personal
different.
growth, right? As of
Yeah.
how is it that the individual relates to each aspect, and also we decided, okay, now we have a better idea of what the behavior of a certain individual, but and where they stand when it comes to the level of consciousness, and that gives you a clear picture. But we wanted to know if the individual incarnated at a different frequency than the frequency they were born at. So we incorporated that into the equation, and we began to measure the frequency of the soul when it incarnates, and then the frequency of the soul when at birth. And we found out that most people experience a drop from utero to birth, and that is due to the emotions that the mother was experiencing at the time,
Yeah.
and the baby was in utero. So that led to one thing into another, and now I think we check over almost like 22 different categories. We also
Wow.
check the person's alignment with divine purpose. We thought that was the coolest thing. Alignment with personal purpose. Intuition. We have broken down intuition to 4 categories, as of clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, and claircognizance too. So to know what the person's forte is, where they are actually able to benefit more from their intuitive abilities and pay more attention to if it's needed in order to enhance the flow. But yes, it's been fascinated, and it doesn't end, it continues.
Do you guys dream about this all night long? About frequencies and people's consciousness? I would think as much of
I haven't, because I think we're just consumed with it so much that I think we just
Right.
take breaks. But in the beginning, yes, like it was a big aha moment for us. I would wake up and say, oh, I saw this. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So then we would incorporate it. So sometimes things will come to us in dreams and then we expand on it. And sometimes
Yes.
I'm the one with a little more resistance, and Alejandro's like, no, we need to do this. And most of the time he's right. So I just trust and flow. And it's been such a
Beautiful journey.
evolving, beautiful process, because I would say that during this entire pandemic, world has been going through chaos. And the one thing that I appreciate the most about our community and what it's become is it's brought so much peace into our lives. It taught us not to necessarily connect to the chaos that's happening, but be an observer and see things for truly what they are, because you can't hide your frequency. We've been exploring frequencies of companies, of organizations, of public figures. So it gives us so much peace, knowing where things are and how they're unfolding, even though we don't know everything. But it's kind of nice to have this deeper insight.
To take it as is.
Yes.
So there's no room for judgment,
Yes.
Yes.
wow. So one thing that was so interesting to me that totally changed the way that I look at birth and coming from the divine into the planet is I thought everyone was coming in at a very high vibration. That was really interesting to me to see that some people come in at a very lower vibration, right? So did you know that? Did that surprise you? Did you
Yes.
feel like, did you think that same thing, that when people came in, they were all coming in at the vibration of at least love, right?
Right,
Yes.
right, definitely. That was our impression.
Yes. And we were surprised. I mean, as we uncovered and tested more and more things, we're constantly surprised, because what we recognize is we don't use judgment. And the way that we test, we just allow for this information to unfold and show to us and reveal itself to us.
Yes.
So yes, like
without attaching to the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the major revelations, right? Because I used to say, and I we continue saying the same, that we all come from love, right? So therefore I thought, okay, now that we're speaking about frequencies, it was evident, or I thought at least, that everyone is born at the frequency of love frequency, which is 500, right?
Yeah.
But that is not the case. We all not only experience different frequencies throughout our lives, but we also are born at different frequencies. We incarnate at different frequencies, and we're born at different frequencies. And so it's very fascinating, what we're discovering. Yes.
Dang it, I wish I would have known this stuff when I was having babies. And that's not happening anymore. My baby is 10, but if I knew what I know now, that baby would be so like in bliss, because I'd be playing the classical music. I'd be, thinking happy thoughts. But I remember it was 21, well, probably about 20 years ago, I was in college and I had been through a super crazy experience. I was getting divorced basically when I was having my baby. And so from 7 months pregnant till the time I gave birth, I was basically in grief. I was in a lot of heartache. And I remember, my son was probably, after I had him, he was probably like a year old, and I was sitting in college and I was taking this health course, and the teacher said that they've done studies on babies and how babies could feel what the mom was feeling when she was pregnant. And at that moment I was like, oh, I hope that is not true. I really hope that is not true. And of course, there have been many confirmations over the years that that is true. And so I know that you guys say, well, you can't judge that, and it was an experience. And I definitely have worked on embracing that over the years. But that is one thing I really love about your work, and the way that you teach is really, you talk a lot about not judging, and that some people come here to play the part of the shadow, and it's really for everyone's highest good. And so that is really beautiful. I love that. Okay, so tell us how accurate your readings are, please. So are they, I mean, tell us, speak to that for a minute, if you would. And
Well,
just so you guys know, Alejandro likes to joke. So if he teases, then
I am usually 99% of the time wrong, but that 1% can really change your life. So always pay attention and wait, because that 1% will come at any time. Least
Okay.
expected.
Well, Jen, first of all, I will say you've had your reading with us.
Yeah. Oh,
And
no.
you know, what do we ask? What do we ask for people to do in order for us to do the lifetime and the oral frequency? What did you submit to us?
So I submitted a picture of myself and my name. And I will speak to the accuracy of that in a minute, because I'm not asking this question for me. I am all in. I know that, but I want people that have never heard you guys.
We have measured its frequency and of the method itself, and we have measured also its accuracy, right? And it is, I will say, at 99%. That I would say that is between 98 and 99%.
Wow, accurate. Yes,
And
wow.
we've had people say to us, as I shared, we share this often, how would you know these things?
Mhm.
And again, we're not psychically, people are wondering if we're doing psychic work.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. And actually, with my science background, I wouldn't want for that to interfere. I think it can enhance, and usually we'll utilize our empathy and our compassion and our intuition in interpreting and giving the information to people. But when we do the analysis, we use technology. So I would say our method is pretty accurate, and we're always blown away by it too.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. I did the initial reading with you guys, and then afterwards I did the lifetime reading. It was, I think, 2 or 3 months after, I don't know, a couple months in between. And it was so fascinating, because there were certain areas in my life that I was like, oh, I wonder if this will show up. And I didn't even share much with you guys when you did the reading as to what really happened in my life behind, in my own world. But it was so amazing. And I was telling my husband later, I was just like, this is so fascinating. They were able to, say this age at 11, and how, and what it pertained to, a general idea of what it pertained to. And then, this dip here as far as my frequency and what I was going through at that time. So it's just amazing. And I know it's very accurate because of my own experience with it. So wow. Okay. So do you feel like you can just look at someone now, and I know you can't, well, I don't know, actually, maybe you can, but do you feel like you can get a general idea just by looking at someone as to where their frequency is at, because you've read so many?
I would say for me, so generally I tend to look at people, and you probably heard me share this, through rose-colored glasses. I tend to see always the best and the most beautiful aspects of a person. So this is why I think our work comes in handy for me, because I don't utilize those glasses. I don't, because I tend to be always in the state of love. And when we do the reading, it doesn't take my state of love out, but it gets to the core of the essence that needs to be revealed.
Mhm.
So as far as you're asking me, I think Alejandro is much more accurate as far as seeing people for what they are. But we tend not to do that.
Yeah.
unless we're asked.
Unless we're asked.
I just wonder, like, when you're, because I feel like we all have that intuition, we all have that internal guidance system. And the more I get in tune with my own intuition, the more I can go, I listen to that of like, hey Jen, don't go this way, let's go more towards this way. You know, maybe don't spend time with those
Yeah.
people. And it's not a bad, good thing, but it's just a guidance system to help me you know, be aware of what's going on. And there have been times in my own life where, you know, I wasn't at a place where I was actually adding to people's life. I would be more of a place based on what I was going through and where my consciousness was at, that I would be draining people because of, you know, the fear I was in. And so I just feel like, you know, sometimes you can look at someone and, you know, maybe even just get chills every once in a while of like,
Yes.
ooh, yeah, I'm not really gonna go hang out over there. You know, I'm gonna go this way instead.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Do you
I
feel
guess
like that?
It happens.
Yes. And the other thing I realized too is we're kind of isolated because we're in this world. It's either kids or it's work, but we actually love it. So it's not work, it's actually play.
Mhm.
But yes, sometimes we feel, oh, this is our soul family. It feels like soul family. And other times we just would rather spend that time researching or, you know, being with our family or work, because we know then it's better not to cross that boundary because it will take the energy. So in that sense, yes.
Yes, and after reading so many people, we recognize that parts of us are in
All of us,
in
in
all
everybody.
of us and everyone, right? Everyone else. Um, so pieces of us are pretty much in every individual around the world. So that helps to view, have a perspective of life that is based on compassion, right? And receive everyone with an open heart. Of course, if someone starts shooting at us, you know, yeah,
The other way.
definitely, yes,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow. Another thing that I found really interesting too, and it really helped me understand the vibrational scale. I've had the vibrational emotional scale in my office for years. I always pull it out for my clients. And so whenever I had yours, because I used to think, how is it? Like if someone, you know, is at the vibration of anger, then how can they have a lot of money? Or if they're at the vibration of, you know, I don't know, love, then how could they have a relationship issue with their husband? Or, you know, how can they struggle in that area? And so with you guys breaking it out into these different pieces, it makes it so much sense, because everybody's here to have a super colorful experience, as you often say. And so it makes sense as to, you know, you can be at a general vibration of acceptance, but then have, you know, 100 in health, or these different levels. So that was really, that really helped me understand and wrap my brain around like how that can happen in people's lives.
It's actually one of the things that we were excited to discover, because oftentimes you hear people say, when you raise your vibration, abundance comes in, you're going to bring a lot of money and prosperity into your life. And we recognize that's not true.
Yeah.
And actually, this was like another revelation for us.
Not necessarily true, I will say, instead of
Not in every case. It
Right.
wasn't true in every case. But what was interesting, one second, sorry, we have our puppy Lima who's making lots of noises here. What was interesting that we discovered that oftentimes people, let's say, who had financial success, that was a surprise, had a frequency in finances of 100. This is just one example, which is a frequency of fear. And that frequency of fear has been their driving force. The fear of failure has been their driving force to succeed. right? So it was also out of balance. And everything, as Alejandro always says, is a relationship. How do you relate to that aspect of your life? So ultimately, does this success make you happy? Is the question that you have to ask yourself. Because if you're constantly driving yourself to the success, but deep down you feel this fear, it doesn't bring you joy and abundance. And the same thing that you were sharing about health, that was another discovery for us. As you know, we shared a revelation with one of our members who's had health issues, chronic health issues her entire life. And her journey has been so remarkable, because that journey of where she was so sick, but she overcame all of this and she mastered her frequency. It doesn't mean that she physically all of a sudden eliminated all of her health imbalances, right? But she mastered that aspect of her life. So again, just because somebody is at a higher frequency does not necessarily mean that they're healthy. And just because someone at a lower frequency doesn't necessarily mean that they're unhealthy. But of course, blockages in those frequencies can lead to chronic conditions, can lead to ultimately not enjoying your life, right?
Yeah.
So,
wow. So on that note, I've loved, one thing I love so much about the two of you is I feel like you guys are fearless when it comes to, you're not trying to be the cool kids. You're not trying to be, placate to any certain belief system, and that you guys are just who you are. You're telling the truth, like you're speaking your truth. And I love it so much. So when it comes to the vibration of mushrooms, ayahuasca, you've done readings on those, alcohol, that's really been a big help for me to see, because I've loved my wine and now I'm like, ooh, whoa, very low vibration. Do I really want to be putting that into my body on a normal basis? So thank you so much for speaking out and telling people the stuff that will help them. It's not about the popular thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so with that, so with mushrooms, ayahuasca, that's a big thing in the spiritual community, where people are saying you can come and you can heal. And for whatever reason, it never, well, I know why, but it never sat right with me. And I remember there was a time where my husband and I were talking to people and they were telling us these amazing experiences that they had had. And I am a little bit more, well, I'm a lot more gullible than my husband. He's my protector. And he is also, he's always, like looking out. And afterwards I was like, what do you think about that? And he goes, I feel like I've watched you and your journey, and there's no reason why you would ever need to do that, because you've already come a long ways. You're on the right path. You're already, he says, I don't feel like that is anything that you need to do. And not that I was saying I was going to do it. It was just a fascinating conversation with people when they're saying, oh, this helped us so much. And we had these amazing experiences. And you have been telling people the damage that can happen. And so when that happens, maybe you can speak to that really quick. I know it's a whole episode, and so I don't expect you to, go over the whole thing right now, but maybe kind of tell people a little bit about what you've found when it comes to those substances. And I also want to know, is it just a dip that you see that happens and then they go back up, or is it something more long lasting?
Great question.
I would say, if I may, number one is a temporary solution for a long-term situation, a situation that it is that impacts the human energy field in a negative way, right? Because it creates a soul fragmentation, and that people's energy fields become vulnerable, and therefore they're open to for lower vibrational entities to turn them into their host, right? I will say But the most important thing is just to know that by expecting an external source to create what one wants to experience, we are only disempowering ourselves and robbing ourselves from the opportunity to create what we want, right? So I think that everything should start from there. Then everything that we need lies within us, and there's no need to look for it outside of ourselves, right? Because that creates codependency and a vicious cycle that never ends. And we're still constantly like a dog trying to bite its tail and thinking that we have to just use more of it because nothing has been resolved. And maybe some moments where if it seems like things are getting better, especially when one is under the influence, but then eventually it creates a snowball effect where it enhances the problem, right? The one tries to resolve. But when it comes to, I would say, the energy field, the morphogenetic field or the biofield or the human energy field, it weakens the field. So it is a very high risk method, and dangerous as well. That we definitely do not recommend it, because after reading so many people, they have gone through it before, during, and after the ayahuasca journeys, especially mushrooms and so forth, psychedelics in general. We have identified holes in their fields, in their energy field,
and where these entities reside.
Yes.
How much of hijacking that actually occurs, and they hijack the soul gate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in every case. We have yet to discover one person that has had this experience and that does not have the entities.
Yes.
It just hasn't happened yet.
We truly were open to every case. We're open. Few times people that are actually promoting this activity or these journeys are trying to contradict what we state, but we just share based on what we see and we come across, and based on our findings. And so it's a fact, right? That's what we base our conversations on. And they try to argue, and then we say, okay, I understand. Would you like us to read your field? Let us read your field, and you will see what it looks like. And we can bet all you want that the numbers will show that you have been flooded with entities, and that your energy purity levels are very low, and so forth. And perhaps your intuition is also being jeopardized and impacted, in a negative way, and so forth. So far, no one has volunteer for that.
They're like, okay, never mind, bye.
Yeah,
Wow. So that's so fascinating. So is it a long-term effect then?
It's long-term unless it's addressed and the field is cleared, because what happens is there's many different entry points into our field. One, of course, be the soul gate, and the entities will hijack, and what they do is, it's the beings that want to transition into the light that haven't transitioned into the light. So they need light particles of another being. So their goal is to make them as sick as possible, as quick as possible, to transition into the light. Okay. So they rob person of their light, color light, and we're all light beings. They hijack people, of course, through something that's called Jing, which is part of the home base of the soul. It's the processing vehicle that connects you to your akasha, to your soul, to your individual as morphogenetic field. So there's different layers of where the hijacking happens. And then in almost every case, we've seen that it blocks your crown chakra. So it cuts you off from your inner self, from the divine, your brow, which makes people either hallucinate or overthink, overanalyze, blocks most of the chakras, blocks the miracle meridians. So miracle meridians, there's 8 of them that are part of our human energy field, and this is how information flows before it gets into our physicality to run through the rest of the meridian systems. And also this is how information gets uploaded into your DNA at the moment of the divine spark, when the egg and the sperm come together. This is how information travels in and gets uploaded into the DNA. So it actually blocks you on every level.
Mm-hmm.
And it will require a lot of clearing in the field and knowing exactly where to take this information out, to disempower, to disassemble it from the human energy field.
Yes, to erase the energy signature of those low vibrational entities,
Yes.
right?
So it is possible, you can do it, but you
Mhm.
have to go to somebody that can help you or knows how to do that. I know you do work with that, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Wow. It makes so much sense to me, because I have talked to people that there's somebody that comes to mind immediately who was searching for answers and ended up going and doing, I believe it was mushrooms or ayahuasca, I'm not sure which one, but had an amazing experience, they said, and then afterwards started to fall into a depression, and then went again and had another experience, and was trying to like find that experience again, but deeper and deeper and deeper, and is now in a very, very low state of depression, and nobody can even reach him. And so it makes a lot of sense to me. So that's so important for people to understand and to hear, because I think that it's so interesting to me to see that this is actually being taught as a spiritual thing and as a way to get your spiritual connection. And I don't know if it was you guys that said this or somebody else that was talking to you. I know that Sasha, you did a segment with Sasha Stone on this. Somewhere I heard that it's almost as if somebody's like, it's like you're trying to cheat to heal, and you have to do the work. You have to actually go through. It might have even been you, Alejandro, on your, because I also watched your YouTube segment on it that was a while ago that you did on it. And so it makes
Well,
sense.
spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
And it is a bypassing
Mhm.
because our journey, people, of course, those that have had the lifetime reading, you recognize it's the journey that is here to help us appreciate every aspect. The journey itself is the divine that is happening, and we're part of this co-creating process. But to bypass that, you're bypassing yourself in a way, and all of the beautiful experiences that come along with it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's not something that we expand on frequently, as it's not really our intention to come across as the Ghostbusters,
No.
in the quantum world. But we started sharing it because of
Our findings.
our findings, and people were reaching out for other things, and then we were finding all these imbalances due to this to these experiences or journeys, right, with psychedelics. So therefore, based on a request, that's when we decided to share it. That we can do that, right? We can help someone to clear that off the field. Of course, we have a couple of people, and I'm honestly not too happy about that when you help someone and then they continue doing the same, right? And then they feel so confident that we can clear it. So then they go back on the same road, and their numbers again increase and then come back so we can clear it. That we have a couple of people that they've done that in the past, which we don't want to create a codependency in the situation, but it is something that we can take care of. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow. So what do you feel like are some top things people can do to raise their vibration?
Well, number one, have a strong conviction that all the answers are within, and they're going inward and instead of going outward, right?
Yeah.
And in order to find beauty, beauty has to be experienced within, right? And it has to be a part of an extension of us. And instead of expecting the world to look beautiful in order to feel beauty, right? So everything begins with us, and now we know that we all come from the same source, and we're all energy beings living a human experience, and even though we occupy this vessel, we remain unlimited, and we remain connected to the source and into everyone else. So we must take a responsibility for our own, right? Life is happening for us, not to us. And knowing that it doesn't end with us, it continues, it creates a ripple effect. So if we truly want to create an impact on the world and influence the human collective in a positive way, and increase everyone's frequency, right? Or the frequency of the collective, like is very well talked often. We have to begin with us, right? Taking care of us. And I think that as simple as that, going inward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful. Love it.
I will add one more thing that to
Yes.
me, maybe you can take, we will show you the puppy now because she's going crazy and she's biting our stuff. But we just got her 6 days ago. Oh my God, she's a
Oh,
troublemaker.
so
Pull her
cute.
up so they can see her.
I saw Alejandro dancing with her.
Oh my gosh. So one thing I want to say that I find helpful for me, and therefore I share, it's important for every human being to recognize that we're all creators, okay? And what is creativity? I often talk about it. It's inspiration and action. What is it that inspires you? So maybe somebody else, is a painter, a singer, a writer. It doesn't mean that you have to be that, right? So you have to remember that you are your own creator and focus on what inspires you. And that inspiration you can find in the smallest, simplest things. And that is the place that I call falling in love. So whatever inspires you is what is there to also help you raise your own vibration. So focus on the moments of inspiration, expand on it, fall in love with that, which is ultimately you.
Mm.
And that is how you can raise your own vibration.
That's such a good point. Okay, so that for me, so when I had my reading, my creativity was not as high as I would have thought that it would be, right? I thought it would be higher. And I've thought about it since my reading of like, what is it that, could boost my creativity? And because to me, we're playing a game here on planet Earth. And so it's like, well, I want, when you can be on your journey and you can raise your vibration, then to me, that's winning the game. Oh, what a little pumpkin. So cute. This is Lima, right?
Lima, and she was just creating a lot of trouble. That's
She's
why I had
so cute. So I go back and forth because Abraham Hicks was a major, major turning point in my own life, my own healing. Somebody gave me a book, 12, 13 years ago. And I fully believe in the teachings of Abraham, and that we're creators and that what we focus on expands. But I also have this activism in me. I was part of the news media for a minute. That's what I studied, got my degree in. I was in the pharmaceutical world for a while. That was my career. And so I have like this yin and yang going in, within me, like this little war that it's like, okay, what we focus on expands, yet I want to speak out and I want to say these things that I've learned and I believe in, and I believe in like being a spiritual warrior. Because when I see these people, because you talked about inspiration, what inspires you and acting on that. And I see these people that are, speaking out and saying things that I know they're bursting with light, and I feel like it's so important for them to do the work they're doing. But for me, I go in between these two going, no, just focus on the, the butterflies and rainbows. And then part of me is like, but no, I've got to do my work and, speak my truth. So do you know what I'm saying? I kind of go back and forth between those things. And I wonder, because when you said, when you do what inspires you, it will raise your vibration. So that's what brought me to that. So what
And
do you say to
I
that?
think it's always a dance.
Mhm.
And I will say for us too, some of the things that you hear us publicly discuss, it takes a lot of courage. I remember the first time Sasha asked us to do an episode on these huge corporations, and actually an episode coming up, but I think I'm over that one. I'm okay with revealing frequencies of vaccines. The first time he asked us, I couldn't sleep for a couple of days because part of me wants to reveal what is, and then the human part of me says, well, maybe I just want to go hide and I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah.
So I feel you.
Yeah.
And I would say follow what feels good to you, but sometimes it's good to push your limits.
Yeah.
And if you feel the calling of standing fully in the light and revealing whatever it is that you're here to reveal, then let that guide you.
So you just gave me permission to do that.
Yeah, there you go.
But you know what I mean, though, how like Abraham Hicks like talks about just focusing on what you want to see, right? And so I do go back and forth between those. But yeah, when I see people that do speak out, like Sherry Tenpenny and Andrew Wakefield and all of them, Del Bigtree, I'm just like, oh, I'm so inspired by all of them and all of their work. And so, and by you guys too, everything that you have been speaking out with, it's awesome. So, okay. So do you feel, so if somebody were to come to you and say, what is your view of what's happening on planet Earth right now with the turn of 2020? What do you think is going on here? And what do you see? Where do you see it going?
Go ahead.
I think it was, is, and it will always be. And it's just a matter of how we view it. And based on how we view it is how we're going to experience it. So like you said earlier, what you focus on expands. Focus on what inspires you the most, what brings you joy. If you don't feel there's anything you can focus on, then create something, come up with something, but it's all based on your state of beingness, really, in your perspective of life, right? When we learn to take it as is, and learn the most we can, that gives you the ability to remove judgment out of the equation, and that, because judgment is what brings resistance, right? So we expected it to be differently, or we expect a different outcome, or we think that if it is different to the way it is, we're going to be happier. And I think that is just will always be the case. It doesn't matter with or without COVID situation. 10 years from now, 10 years back, 10 years forward, we will always be faced with different situations. They're going to be presented as opportunities to go inward again and to bathe in our inner peace, or expand that inner peace, or focus on the things that inspires us the most. So therefore, whenever you're challenged with a negative situation, a negative emotion gets triggered, you will not be as, or the impact of that will not be as high as it was before when you tried it. You were attached to the outcome, or when you're trying to change what is. You know?
Yeah.
I will say that the way I see the whole thing, it's been an opportunity of having a very clear vision. And it's interesting because it's become so obvious how the humanity is all of a sudden splitting up, right? The views are so polarized. And it is an opportunity, as Alejandro said, you know, if something triggers you, I will say it's an invitation, an opportunity for us to come together and see and not limit one conversation or just the other conversation. It's an opportunity to become as clear as possible as a collective, as a humanity, because the point is, you know, if one view is opposing the other, we're part of the same. We're just looking at it from different angles. So it's more of an invitation of how can we come together? And the way we can come together is by having more compassion for those perhaps that don't understand us, or for the ones that we can't understand. But only then, through the lens of compassion, we can have an understanding and perhaps a growth that all of human beings, or majority of human beings, and perhaps in spiritual community, you're hearing people talk about this big awakening. Well, awakening can only happen when all of us begin to understand each other's side. So I would say it's the biggest invitation right now that we've been given to come together. And it's not about them versus us or us versus them, but it's about uniting, holding hands. And fear, unfortunately, right now is ruling really high. And this is the cause of this illusion of separation, as we call it. But then Alejandro and I looked into where humanity is moving. So we are moving in the right direction. But sometimes to move into the right direction, we need a little shaking up. So right now we're having, big shaking up that's happening on the collective level.
So we are moving in the right direction.
Yes, from our testing and what we've looked into Sasha, as you know, asked us about looking into year 2046. And there's definitely going to be a shift in the collective consciousness. The last time we checked, our collective is at the frequency of 230, which is the frequency of courage. So we're all being asked to step into our courage, which is the gate through which every human being is capable of recognizing that we're all connected, that we're all part of the collective, right? And we're part of ourselves. And moving forward, yes, the frequency of the collective is going to shift in a massive way, mostly due to the new generation that's being born at the moment. From year 2013 to the year 2025, they're coming in at a much higher frequency of 500. And so they're going to be the ones leading the way into what everyone is talking about, this higher frequency, the higher frequency for the collective consciousness of humanity. And that will happen in the year of 2046. Wow.
So you measured the past generations, and I loved so what you found was that with each generation, it seems to be a higher, like as a general, right? Not so, of course, with, you know, kids being born in the 70s, some are going to be higher, some are going to be lower, but as a general average, that it was higher than, say, somebody coming in the 50s or the 30s, right? As you measured them, it seemed like they were going up in vibration.
Slightly, I would say slightly. The biggest change, because we also looked at generations going back thousands of years, and as a humanity, we haven't shifted much in thousands of years. But the shift that is happening is going to happen due to the brand new generation that is being born between 2013 and 2025, which is the Alpha generation. So leading up to it, most of humanity is kind of in the same frequencies.
And the generation X as well.
Yes.
So our grandchildren.
Yes, it will be the new babies. We've actually measured quite a few that are at 900 frequency.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
wow.
somewhat the intuition number for the collective is pretty high, actually, 700s, right?
Yes.
Right now for the human collective as of now. And I will say that it's because we are laying the foundation for the new generation, for what is needed for them to adjust or integrate. But more than likely, it's not only that's how we are contributing now with the aspect of intuition, but also eventually this events that take place, like the last one was December 21st, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What was the name of that actually?
I don't remember. There was an event that took place.
I know what you're talking about.
Right?
I can't remember what it was either.
That happened with it. The frequency of that was 1000, right? And often we experience these different events, and people are like really waiting for it, and a portal is going to open, and
people are doing global meditations
and all sorts of stuff. And yes, it helps. So within 1 or 2 days, the human collective's frequency increases. But then, since we're not really ready to sustain that, it comes back down to the place, right before this event took place. But since we are having this new last 2 generations coming in at a higher average frequency-wise, when a few years from now, when these events take place, then we're going to have enough people to really take a full advantage of this, the frequency of these events. So that's going to help us to expedite the process of experiencing a higher level of consciousness, right?
Wow. And there's supposed to be an event that happens in 2046 that you saw that brings us to the level of love.
Yes, because in 2045, the vibrational frequency of the human collective was at 350, right? Acceptance. And then in 2046, we're in the 500s, the level of love.
So when you did those readings, right now, if we're at 230, when does it, is it just kind of like a gradual rise?
Yes, and then it's shifting as of different aspects are shifting, right? When it comes to intuition, relationships, philanthropy, integrity as well, integrity of the collective, compassion. That is shifting as the pieces are being adjusted, right? And then that will catapult us to a higher level of consciousness eventually, right?
Yeah. I feel like I see that even with the children. Yeah, with the children that are here, they'll say things. I have 2 small children, and they'll say things, and I'm like, how did you know that? Or that was such a profound thing for them to say. I feel like they definitely have a higher level of consciousness than, I don't know, kids from the past, or it's just interesting to me.
Yes, high level of awareness.
Like even now, like we talk to our kids, and they'll say, like Andrew, who's 20, he'll come in and he loves what we do. He's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Mom, can you measure this and this for me too? And he's like, wow, that's completely in line with what I felt. So it's remarkable because it's happening. And it's happening, of course, to our older kids as well, but it's just the younger babies now that are being born, they're just coming all at the much higher frequency and much higher level of awareness and knowing. They just know.
Wow. Yeah. So out of the many, many people that you've read publicly, you've read so many people in the limelight, celebrities. Have you ever had anyone that was upset with your readings and reached out to you?
Yes.
Not reached out to us, but yes, upset. Yes. One person, but I would say they didn't know their reading. It was something that non-members saw as a post and brought it to that person's community, and then that person went volatile.
Oh, wow.
But I think it's because she didn't really know what we're doing, and she didn't understand what we were doing. So a lot of misunderstandings can happen, but I think ultimately, as you know, if you join our community, you'll see that the amount of love and the amount of actually we have no judgment, but that we share would make the person actually appreciate the sharing and hopefully appreciate knowing.
Yes, so
But
this person's reaction matched
their frequency
their reading to
was
the
spot
T.
on.
You know?
Yes.
But so most people that reach out to you for a reading, they're over 200, right? Most
Yes.
people that want that's what you generally find, right?
Yes, definitely. And another common factor is that most of them are committed to personal growth. I will say that 95% of them are. And that is what has helped them transcend their birth frequency and their frequency in utero and so forth. You know.
Mm-hmm.
We have had people reach out who wanted for us to read companies, corporations, and we said, wow, they're brave because the numbers were pretty low. So for some people, I would say it gave them, because of their integrity, of the person's integrity, it gave them a deeper insight into, okay, if that's the path they want to follow, or perhaps they need to explore somewhere else.
Yes, like a wake-up call. But they always say, you know, that makes sense. And I was feeling that I needed to make an adjustment. Something was out of alignment here. And thank you, you know, so they're appreciative
Yes.
of what we revealed to them.
Wow.
Because it makes sense. Unless someone is resistant and they don't want their idea of what rocks their boat, what makes them, you know, happy, or what is making them money, right? Or they're afraid of change and they're afraid of letting go of their illusion. Otherwise, I would say that almost all of them, maybe one or two people out of all the people that we've read, most of them are open really to receive the information, and they feel it. They feel it, you know, there is an alignment. So we're not really, I will say that we always we're reminders, actually. We're messengers, you know, we're reminding people what they already know. It's just that often, rather due to traumas, that the traumas or the unprocessed emotions create energetic blockages, right? And blur our vision in a way. So, or we're just afraid of change, and we're not willing and open to deviate from which we have identified ourselves with, you know.
Yeah.
That's when it creates resistance. Yes.
When you said we're reminders and we're just you're basically confirming what people already know, I laughed because when I did my reading, I remember thinking before I met with you guys, I was a bit nervous before I met with you, but I was thinking, all this work I've done, if I'm at the same vibration as I was when I was 20, I'm going to be really discouraged. But luckily I wasn't, and that made me happy. But it was a good confirmation that the work I am doing and I have done is paying off. So that was really awesome. So your work is amazing. So my last question to you is, Elena, what is your message to the world? My dear, anything you want to give to the world?
Yeah, stay in your integrity and in your love, because love is truly the most important ingredient in everything. I would say integrity, love, and compassion.
Beautiful. Thank you. Alejandro, what is your message to the world?
See yourself through the eyes of God, and remind yourself as often as possible that God resides within you. And if you want to honor God, honor yourself. And that all the answers will be are going to be revealed in divine timing.
That's everything. I love it. Thank you so much. How can people find you?
Yes, holistic.com, WHOLISTIC.
Okay. You two are amazing. Thank you so much for all
Thank
the
you.
work that you do. And thank you for shining your light and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.